Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kongman Paints, and today I'm going to take you through my approach to painting white scars. Now before we begin, I just want to say, if you've been baited in by the video title, this is definitely not the easiest way to paint Space Marines. It's not the hardest either, it's just time consuming. So if you are a beginner, I'd recommend you go and try something like an Ultramarine for your first one, or a Salamander. But if you've got your heart set on white scars, whether it's your first army, your 19th army, I don't really care. Let's get started. So to start out, we just want to prime this motherfucker. I've used Surface Primer from Vallejo. This one's grey. It's basically the same as Corax White, so you can use a Corax White rattle can. Now that the model is all primed, I'm just going to drown this dude in Null Oil. I just want to make sure you guys can see how liberally I'm applying this Null Oil. So I am literally drowning this motherfucker in Null Oil. And you can see our Chagorian dude, he's all bathed up in Null Oil. Now I'm going to spray him with some Storm Shield. It's matte varnish, it's just going to take some of the sheen out of that Null Oil. You can see some of it's still quite shiny. And I want it to be as matte as possible. So as you've seen, our white scar is now a disgusting dirty grey. So the next step is to make him more white again. So to do this, I'm going to use white grey by Vallejo. And I'm just going to be bringing in the arm panels, avoiding the recesses. I will show you what that looks like in just a second. So for this stage, we've really got to make sure that the paint is nice and thin. Don't spend too long on one area because you don't want it to get clumpy. Give it one thin coat and then quickly move on. If it needs a second coat, which it probably will, that's the fun part, doing it all again. Go back to it later. Don't keep going over the same area. The paint dries very quickly because it's acrylic. So when you keep going over it, you keep disturbing the surface that's drying, and that's when you start getting clumpy, nasty looking paint. If you can, try and keep all your brush strokes going in the same direction as well. It just helps, again, avoid that chalky, clumpy look. So you can see that leg, I've got one coat of white grey on there. It's a little bit chalky. I'm not a professional. That's going to need another coat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chuck 2 coats over the whole fucking model, and we'll see where we are. As I said earlier, this isn't difficult. It's just time consuming, but if you're like me, you love white scars, this is worth it. So when I first tried to paint the white scar, it was a fucking disaster. There was me thinking, white can't be that hard, it's just white. No. The key with white is you've got to have somewhere to highlight to. So if you start with white, you can't go anywhere, so you can't put any highlights on it. You've got to have somewhere to go up to. Otherwise, you're just going to have a flat white. It's not going to have any definition. Whew! On to the second coat. Here he is, after 2 coats. It's not going to win you any golden demons. But if you did want to improve on that, all I would say is thin your paint down even more and do more coats to get a nice smooth finish. But that'll do for me. So final stage of the white armor, we're going to apply Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White as an edge highlight. This shit's fucking brilliant. Cover anything in 2 or 3 coats. The dropper bottom for this shit sucks though. Like, what's that little bubble about at the end? I waste that every time, bro. Now this dude's all highlighted up, I'm going to move on to the red trim on the armor. Now, I'm going to be using Barrack Knot Burgundy for a slightly different tone, something more like personal to me. But if you want to go for the traditional method, I would use Mephiston Red, follow the Citadel app for red. Chucked on 1 coat of Barrack Knot Burgundy. While that's drying, I'm actually going to do some freehand work. I'm going to do some lightning bolts, some jaggedy lines and shit. You don't have to do this. It's basically squad markings. You you can buy the White Scars upgrades, use the transfers. I can't do that because all those transfers are red, and I'm using burgundy. So I'm gonna chuck a lightning bolt on the shoulder pad, some shit on the leg. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so to do the lightning bolt, what I like to do is trace, do a line first, do it as a line. So think Harry Potter's scar. And then once you've got that line on there, you can start thickening it out. I'm not the best at this, but this is how I like to do it. Gives them a bit more personality. Watching me do this, and you think, yeah, nah, fuck that. I haven't got the skills for that. Neither have I. It's literally just breaking it down, simplifying it, and realizing that you can go back a step if you want to, you know? Taking my time because I'm shit. I have the shakiest hands. There we go, so I've just done a jagged line down the shin, and now I'm just going to fill in the space around that to bulk it out. So keep your paint nice and smooth for this bit. And all we have to do now is paint in the lines. It sounds simple, but I'll probably fuck it up. So next, I'm going to try and put another lightning bolt on this knee pad. I think it's a good chance for me to try and show you close up exactly what I'm doing. I'm probably going to fuck this up because it's the first time I've actually tried to paint close up on camera. But let's see how it goes. So we're going to start off with the line again. So Harry Potter's scar. We've got a basis to work to. And now I'm just going to fatten it up. As you can see, it's not perfect. But once you got a whole squad of these guys, you know, it's going to get better. So there you have it, a lightning bolt on the shoulder guard, jaggedy line on the shin pad. It'll do. It's going to get another coat, and then I'm going to highlight it with some Screamer Pink. So now all the red trim is done, as well as the freehand work that I wanted to do. So I'm going to move on and start painting the metal parts of the miniature. I'm going to start out with Iron Warrior and build up from there. I can hear some of you screaming out, "Oh, heresy! He's painted the Eagle's crest silver. White Scar's supposed to be red." Fuck you. In all seriousness though, guys, painting these models, it's just personal preference. You know, if you want to change the colour, change the colour. Doesn't matter. You're not hurting anybody. If you want to paint them lore accurate, paint them lore accurate. Again, you're not hurting anybody. There's just no point getting butter over it. Just do what you want to do. Now, start to add some highlights to that silver we've just done. I'm going to use Iron Breaker. And I'm just going to apply that quite broadly. More avoiding the recesses than anything. I'm trying to catch like thick edge highlights. You can be quite rough with it because our next step is to drown the fucker in Null Noil again. So let's drown those metal areas in Null Noil. So by this point in the video, you've probably noticed that I've gone for the helmetless option on my White Scar. And you might think, Cog, you're a madman. Why would you do that? Painting a helmet is so much easier than painting the face. But hear me out. White Scar's all about being outside, being free, wild, spirited. So why the fuck would any of them wear helmets? And I know that's controversial, as last video I said it was illogical to go into battle without a helmet on. But since when was 40k logical? So with that said, I'm going to base coat the face and the head of this miniature with Bugman's glue. You might think faces are scary, but the reality is they're just time consuming. Again, it's just taking your time. You know, I'm not gonna, as I said, I'm not gonna produce a golden demon winning miniature in this video, but I'm gonna give you something that's passable. You know, look good on the tabletop. And when you've got fucking 20, 30 of these guys, it don't matter anyway. So I've 2 coats of Bugman's glue. I'm gonna say now is the point where you should do the eyes, because you can clean up any mistakes. We'll dot them with the pupils in a minute. Okay, look at this motherfucker. That's fine. At this stage, that is absolutely fine, because we're going to go over that doesn't matter. You can be messy at this point. So I'm gonna start tidying this face up with Kislev flesh. Again, I'm just gonna tell you to avoid the recesses, especially that scar on his face, because leaving the bug ones glowing there is gonna make it look like scar tissue. So start off with his little snores. So that's just one coat. You can see we've already kind of recovered it. He looks a bit cursed, but there's still some more steps to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to chuck a kind of a crimson shade all over the face, and then I'm going to re-highlight with Kislev flesh. For the love of the Emperor, avoid the eyes of this shade. So you can see now, he's not the prettiest motherfucker, but it looks like a face, it'll pass for a face, that'll do the job. So now we get to a stage that I always regret not doing earlier, and that is the black. I'm going to be using Black Legion because it's the best fucking black paint set I'll make. I'm going to be painting in everything I want black, so unfortunately that does mean the sections between the armour, so I've got to be really careful in those sections. And the hair, I'm going to do the hair black as well. Pray for me. So whilst that black Legion is drying, I'm going to jump on the final highlight of the metal bits using Stormhurst Silver. Now I'm going to highlight all those black areas using Dark Reaper. However, I'm not going to highlight the hair because I just don't think hair should have an edge highlight really. So if you want to, you can leave this edge highlight of Dark Reaper. However, if you want to go into more detail, I would go up to either Thunderwolf, Thunderhawk Blue, or all the way to Fenrisian Grey. It's up to you. But you can just leave it in this Dark Reaper, it's not going to look bad. I will most likely use Thunderhawk Blue. Okay, so the model's really coming together now. There's not much left to do. The only thing I'm really going to address is that little scroll there on his shoulder. I'm going to paint that up with some Screaming Skull. I'm then probably going to freehand something on it. Maybe the word scar, I don't know. And then we'll chuck a shade on it, call it a day. So it'll probably take a couple of coats of Screaming Skull to get this up to a nice, like parchment-y colour. In between coats, you could chuck some colour on these details, so like the buttons on his arm, the one on his leg. For those kind of things, I'm probably going to use Balthazar Gold and various other greens, blues, reds. So you can see, I've written Scar really roughly. It's not brilliant, but it'll do. I don't think anyone's actually going to read it. A little bit of Agrax Earthshade on that parchment. I've forgotten to paint the belt. Okay, so I thought I was finished, but I've forgotten to do the belt. So I'm going to go back, paint up the belt, and then we'll move on to some basing. So I'm going to be painting this belt up in like a brown leather. That's what I normally go for. I would do that for any pouches if the miniature had any. Fortunately, this one's just got a belt. That's probably why I missed it. We're going to start off with some Mournfang Brown. Just base coat everything you want to be this brown leather in Mournfang. It'll probably take 2 coats. Everything needs 2 coats. Once that base coat of Mournfang Brown is dry, drown that bitch in some Nuln Oil. You may have noticed, I love drowning shit in Nuln Oil. Highlight on that leather is going to be Deathclaw Brown. What the fuck is the Deathclaw Brown? We need that for later anyway. Found it! So we're applying the Deathclaw Brown just as an edge highlight. I'm ready to base the miniature. All the paintwork is done. I'm going to be using a Grellan Badland and some tufts and shit that I've got knocking about. It's hairdryer time. Now the reason I said to use a hairdryer is because with finishes like this Agrellan Badland, the quicker they dry, they're gonna crack. And that's the kind of effect I want, is almost like this cracked earth. They're not quite the same as like the crackle paints, like something like Mordant Earth, but the same principle applies. The quicker you get it to dry, the more it'll crack. Hence the hairdryer. And if you don't have a hairdryer, you're gonna be sat there a while waiting. So once that Agrellan Badland is dry, get some Terminator stone and just dry brush this shit all over that base. Take care to avoid the miniature, but you hit his feet and stuff, it's not the end of the world. It's just gonna look like dirt kick up, a little bit of a weathering effect. So I'm gonna add some tufts, paint the rim of the base black, and show you the final result. And there you have it, one white scar, fully painted. If you do follow my tutorial, tag me in it, let me see what you've been up to. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.